Hey, what's going on, you guys? This is Madam, and I'm coming back to you once again. This time, I'm going to go over to the New Republic, and this is in the opinion section. Forget Trump's words. His actions prove he doesn't mind if kids die. Donald Trump has, of course, done a lot of shocking things as president, things even previous Republicans wouldn't have done. We focus most of our coverage on those things, and rightfully so. But on one issue, he's been a pretty standard Republican president, which is to say, he's been horrible and wicked in the standard way.
Survivor
The
who
issue
relies
is
on others to
guns.
complete
Before
everyday tasks like
Minneapolis
buttoning a shirt.
shooting
But today
fades
is
out
a
of the
new
news
day.
cycle, let's look
Vivistim
at
is the latest
the
technology for
grisly
stroke
Trump
survivors
record,
who want to
which
improve
has
hand and
largely
arm
passed
function.
under
In
the
fact,
radar.
98% of Vivistim.
We begin with his February 7th executive order called Protecting the Second Amendment Rights. It stated in the opening paragraph, because it is foundational to maintain all other rights held by Americans. The right to keep and bear arms must not be infringed. It then directed Attorney General Pam Bondi to review existing
Buttons.
laws
They're
and
not so cute if you're a
regulations
stroke
so
survivor
on
who relies on
to
others to
assess
complete
any
everyday
ongoing
tasks like buttoning a
infringement
shirt.
of the
But
Second
today is a
Amendment
new day.
rights of our
Vivistim
citizens.
is the latest technology for stroke
This has
survivors who
led
want
to
to
a
improve
process
hand
that
and arm
seeks to
function.
restore the
In
gun rights
fact,
of convicted
98% of
felons.
Vivistim.
So on July 18th, the Justice Department pushed a rule that to that effect. The press release opening sentence reads, President Donald Trump directed the Department of Justice to address ongoing infringements of the Second Amendment rights of our citizens, all of them. Further down, the release quotes E.D. Martin, the administration's pardon attorney and a mega extremist who was nominated for a U.S. attorney's position, was withdrawn because he probably couldn't get the votes. General Bondi's support of the rebooted 925C program is consistent with Donald Trump's promise to American people
Buttons.
to
They're
support
not so
the
cute if you're a
beautiful
stroke
Second
survivor who
Amendment.
relies on others to
So
complete everyday tasks
that's
like
number
buttoning a
one.
shirt. But today
The
is a new
DOJ
day.
is going
Vivistim
out
is
of
the
its way
latest
to
technology
restore
for
gun
stroke
rights to
survivors.
convicted felons, a category, of course, that includes Donald Trump himself. But the EO and other actions by the administration go a lot further. Trump ordered a review of every gun regulating move made by the Biden administration. For example, on April 7th, Bondi revoked a Biden-era rule that allowed the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms and Explosives to recline the license of gun dealers that break the law by falsifying records. Ponder that. Business that knowingly breaks the law now have
Buttons.
immunity
They're
from
not so cute if you're
federal
a stroke
oversight.
survivor who relies on.
There's plenty more. On May 16th, the administration agreed to a settlement of several lawsuits which the Justice Department would no longer enforce machine gun ban laws, which date back to the 1930s, against the guns with force reset triggers, FRT devices. An FRT, which is a recent development in technology, allows the shooter to fire at an increased fire rate. The NRA and manufacturers say it's no big deal. The shooter still has to fire each shot separately. Gun safety advocates counter that by mechanically resetting the trigger position after a shot is fired. FRTs still dramatically increase the fire rate, especially turning some semi-automatic weapons into machine guns. So these will now be sold again. FRTs have been aftermarket devices, but now they might be installed at point of sale. The Republicans' big ugly budget bill factors in here too. A transfer tax on silencers have been part of the U.S. law since 1934. The tax was imposed for the obvious reason that silencers tend to be used by bad guys. You don't need a silencer to shoot a goose or defend your family from an intruder. It was paid by either the buyer or seller and was set at $200. Okay? In all these decades, it was never raised to $200, then would be close to $4,900 today. But at least it existed. As of January 1st, it will be zero. This is who Trump is, a cynical and strategically transactional person who once upon a time spoke reasonable, sensibly about guns, but who realizes once he entered politics that anyone who wants the GOP presidential nomination has to sell his soul to the NRA so he can probably excuse me. So he sold his. Probably wasn't expensive. This is another thing what kind of stop paying attention to because he doesn't so many other things that are or appear to be so much more outrageous. But I take note every year of what Trump tells the NRA. In the summer of 2024, he spoke to a group in person and said, among other things, let there be no doubt that the survival of our Second Amendment is very much on the ballot. You know what they want to do. If they get it if they get it in, our country's going to be destroyed in so many ways. But the Second Amendment will still be. It's under siege. But with me, they'll never get anywhere. If the Biden regime gets 4 more years, they are coming for your guns, 100% certain. Crooked Joe has a 40-year record of trying to rip firearms out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. They are going after the ammunition. When the radical left tried to use COVID to shut down gun sales during the China virus, I proudly designated gun and ammunition retailers as critical infrastructure so they couldn't be touched. This April, the group convened in Atlanta and Trump addressed the assemblage via video, bragging about all the above and more, saying that there is much more to come. Americans are born free, and under the Trump administration, we will live free, always live free. With me in the White House, your sacred rights will not be infringed. Now, at the Minneapolis, Vice President J.D. Vance and Melania Trump are out there trying to shift the topic from guns to mental health. And that's kind of funny because I remember that the Democrats was pushing for and actually wrote laws that failed because the Republicans didn't want it about mental health and guns. I remember this because it was a really big thing, and the Republicans' talking points at that time was, um, we don't need mental health, we need better gun laws. Mental health is not a determining factor, blah, 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 blah. Here we go, fast forward, J.D. Vance and Melina are talking about it should be a shift to mental health. Well, in order to have mental health, and have that be a thing in terms of guns and who buys and sell guns, then you actually have to have things in place like medical care to, be able to give to these people. You have to have doctors to be able to evaluate these people. It's a whole host of things that need to happen in order for that to be a thing. But I guess it's a thing now. Continuing with the article, it says it's a total dodge in an attempt to talk about anything but guns. But okay, we have an obvious five alarm mental health care crisis in this country, which we've always had. So, to the extent that this administration really wants to do something about it, is great. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. But as usual, the rhetoric is completely the opposite of the reality. The drastic Medicare cuts is the big ugly bill will impact mental health services in a vast array of ways. Mind State News, which covers mental health policies, wrote after the bill became law the previous 5 years, including the final year of Trump's first presidency, had seen a renewal of a federal commitment to mental health. Over those years, federal funding for mental health services increased. New programs like the 988 hotline were created and funded. Funding streams were established to boost crisis response services and to support school-based mental health. Tough new health insurance regulations were enacted to improve access to coverage for mental health services. The last point is especially key. Insurers don't cover mental health the way that they cover physical health. This is, by the way, is an issue the Democrats should seize. Mental health doesn't interest the media much, but I guarantee you it is of keen interest to parents everywhere of all political stripes. But this bill, the site notes, signals that the days of a federal commitment to addressing the U.S. mental health crisis are essentially over, basically. So they are even hypocrites on the one issue on which they're showing concern. But let's not conclude by going back to gun policy. The gun purchased by the Minneapolis shooter was bought legally. Press accounts note that this and then quickly moved on, as if to say there's no point in discussing gun laws here. But there always is. Authorities haven't revealed what kinds of guns beyond saying they were three shotguns, a rifle, and a pistol. Maybe they are not even in the category of weapons we debate. I'll still like to know how someone with such obvious mental health issues passed the background gun checks. And this is the thing that I was stating earlier in the article, that the Democrats fought for this type of thing to be more stricter, but Republicans shot it down. Minnesota strengthened its background checks laws under the Governor Tim Walz in 2023. But someone somewhere still decided that Robert Westman could own guns responsibly, and we deserve to know more about who and why. In the meantime, Trump 2.0 so far shows every sign of doing everything the NRA wants him to do. They can't offer all the thoughts and they can offer all the thoughts and prayers they want, and they can patel on about mental health until the sun sets, but it's their actions that matter, and their actions say they perfectly content to see more children die. And that is the end of the article right there. I agree with everything that this poster is saying. It's very disheartening to know that they will dance around the whole conversation, even though you can definitely look up all the bills and amendments that were brought to the House and Senate for gun law protection by Democrats, with Democrats. It was even some bills that were bipartisan in nature, and they still were shut down by you know, Republicans or filibustered by Republicans. And this is the issue that we're having. I'm all for everyone having Second Amendment rights. However, there needs to be a really serious, look at why this is happening, why this is going on, why this continues to happen, and why haven't we addressed the mental health crisis that is clearly going on in this country? Um, you know, you can point to so many cases of mental illness, especially with these school shooters. Um, these people tend to, you know, have some type of mental affliction going on with them, and nobody addressed it. Even in some cases, people were warned about some of these people, and it still fell on deaf ears. So, what can we do when our own government is essentially giving the green light to everyone to just point and shoot everywhere? You don't need that extra stuff to protect your household or your property. You don't need that stuff. Nevertheless, it's pandering to the NRA. The NRA definitely doesn't care as long as they have their Second Amendment and they cling to that as if, that's going to absolve them of their wrongdoing in terms of all these guns that's killing people, the gun manufacturers. They act like that's going to absolve them of all the lives that's been stolen from people, not just children. So, I don't know, you guys. Let me know what you think. Drop down in the comment section. I would definitely love to hear from you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And with that, you guys, I thank you so much for taking the time out to listen to my video. And with that, I will get with you guys in the next one. Woke up looking for the great hot key. A horn, like a pussy hot key. Push up the blueprint,